Christians are one of the most widely persecuted groups in the world today, with millions facing discrimination, violence, and marginalization due to their faith. Despite being the largest religious group globally, Christians are increasingly facing hostility and intolerance in various forms and contexts. The reasons behind this trend are complex and multifaceted, but several factors contribute to the persecution of Christians in society today. One major reason is the rise of secularism and anti-Christian sentiment in the Western world. As secularism gains prominence, Christian values and principles are often seen as outdated, restrictive, and intolerant. This perception has led to growing hostility towards Christians, who are perceived as being at odds with modern society. The media often portrays Christians as bigoted, homophobic, and misogynistic, further fueling negative stereotypes and perpetuating prejudice. As a result, Christians are increasingly marginalized and excluded from public discourse, with their views and values dismissed as irrelevant or extremist. Another significant factor is the growing influence of radical ideologies, such as Islamism and communism, which often view Christianity as a threat to their power and legitimacy. In many countries, Christians are targeted and persecuted by extremist groups who seek to eliminate any perceived opposition to their ideology. This persecution can take many forms, including violent attacks, forced conversions, and economic marginalization. For example, in countries like Iraq and Syria, Christians have been subjected to brutal persecution by ISIS militants who have destroyed churches, monasteries, and other Christian institutions. Furthermore, the erosion of religious freedom and the rise of authoritarianism have also contributed to the persecution of Christians. In many countries, governments are increasingly restricting the freedom of Christians to practice their faith, imposing draconian laws and regulations that limit their ability to worship, evangelize, and express their beliefs. This can include laws that prohibit Christian worship, restrict Christian education, and limit the construction of churches. For instance, in China, the communist government has introduced regulations that restrict the freedom of Christians to worship, forcing many to practice their faith in secret. In addition, the globalized and interconnected nature of modern society has also created new challenges for Christians. Social media platforms, in particular, have become breeding grounds for anti-Christian hatred and intolerance, with many Christians facing online harassment, bullying, and abuse. The anonymity of the internet has emboldened perpetrators who can hide behind pseudonyms and avatars to spew hatred and vitriol towards Christians. This online persecution can have real-world consequences, with many Christians facing offline attacks, intimidation, and marginalization. Moreover, the failure of governments and international organizations to protect Christians has also contributed to the problem. Many governments, including those in the West, have failed to condemn persecution and violence against Christians, often due to a lack of understanding or a fear of being seen as intervening in the internal affairs of other countries. The United Nations, in particular, has been criticized for its inadequate response to Christian persecution, with many arguing that the organization has failed to prioritize the issue. Finally, the silence and complacency of many Christians themselves have also contributed to the problem. Many Christians have failed to speak out against persecution, either due to fear, apathy, or a lack of awareness. This silence has allowed perpetrators to continue their activities with impunity, emboldening them to commit further atrocities against Christians. Moreover, the lack of unity and cooperation among Christians has also hindered efforts to address persecution, with many denominations and churches failing to work together to support persecuted Christians. In conclusion, the persecution of Christians in society today is a complex and multifaceted issue, driven by a range of factors, including secularism, radical ideologies, authoritarianism, and the erosion of religious freedom. To address this issue, it is essential that governments, international organizations, and Christians themselves take a stand against persecution, promoting greater understanding, tolerance, and cooperation. By speaking out against persecution, supporting persecuted Christians, and advocating for religious freedom, we can help to create a more just and equitable society where Christians can practice their faith without fear of violence, marginalization, or exclusion. Ultimately, it is only by working together that we can ensure that Christians and all people of faith can enjoy the freedom to worship, express their beliefs, and live their lives with dignity and respect.